The social worker's office smelled like industrial cleaner and defeat. Maya Torres sat in a plastic chair that squeaked every time one of her 4-year-old quadruplets moved, which was approximately every 8 seconds. Lily, Emma, Noah, and Jack pressed against her like satellites orbiting a dying star, their small bodies radiating the kind of exhaustion that came from sleeping in a minivan for 6 weeks. Across the desk sat Patricia Hernandez, 40-something, with eyes that had seen too many families like Maya's.
If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today.
And a folder thick with papers that represented the systematic failure of every safety net designed to catch people when they fell. Maya was 31 years old, though the mirror in the gas station bathroom that morning had shown someone who looked 50. Her hands were cracked from washing them in the public restrooms, her nails bitten to the quick because anxiety had become her constant companion. She'd lost her apartment 3 months ago when the property management company sold the building, lost her job at the call center 2 weeks after that when she couldn't find childcare, lost her car insurance, her phone plan, her dignity in small increments, until all that remained was a 2009 Honda Odyssey with 240,000 miles and 4 children who deserved so much better than what she could give them. The quadruplets had been a medical miracle, the doctors said. 4 embryos implanted naturally, 4 healthy babies born at 34 weeks. Maya's husband Marcus had been ecstatic, already planning their future, talking about the house they'd buy, the college funds they'd start. Then he'd walked out 6 months after they were born, said he couldn't handle the pressure, the noise, the responsibility of instant family times 4. That was 3.5 years ago. Maya hadn't heard from him since, though she'd tried calling, texting, begging for help when things got desperate. His number was disconnected now. He'd become a ghost, and Maya was left raising 4 children on a call center salary that barely covered rent, let alone food, diapers, clothes, the endless expenses that multiplied by 4. "Miss Torres," Patricia said, her voice careful and neutral, "I need to explain your options." Maya felt her stomach clench. Options meant choices between bad and worse. The quadruplets are eligible for temporary foster placement while you secure stable housing and employment. This would give you time to... No. The word came out harder than Maya intended. Lily's small hand found hers and squeezed. "I'm not giving up my kids. I understand, but you need to consider their welfare. Living in a vehicle isn't safe, especially as winter approaches. The temperatures are already dropping below freezing at night. I keep the engine running. We have blankets. The carbon monoxide risk alone, I crack the windows. We're fine." Patricia's expression shifted, softening slightly. "Maya, I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to help, but you're in an impossible situation. No address means no job applications will be taken seriously. No job means no apartment. No apartment means no stability. The cycle continues." Maya knew all this, had lived it for 6 weeks. She'd filled out applications at every fast food restaurant, retail store, warehouse, and cleaning service within 20 miles. Most never called back. The few that did lost interest the moment they learned about the quadruplets. Childcare for 4 children cost more than most entry-level jobs paid. The math didn't work. The world wasn't designed for people like her. "There's one more thing," Patricia said, pulling a different folder from her desk drawer. "This arrived yesterday, forwarded from your last known address." She slid an envelope across the desk, thick cream-colored paper with Maya's name written in elegant script. Maya Elena Torres. The return address showed a law firm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Caldwell, Morrison and Associates. Maya opened it carefully, aware of 4 pairs of eyes watching her every move. The children had learned to read her expressions, to gauge their safety by the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. "Dear Miss Torres," the letter began, I am writing on behalf of the estate of Dr. Raymond Vasquez, who passed away on September 18, 2024. According to his last will and testament, executed in 2019 and updated most recently, this past July, you have been named as the sole beneficiary of his primary research facility located at the Vasquez Array site, approximately 30 miles southeast of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Maya read the paragraph 3 times before it started making sense. Dr. Raymond Vasquez. The name pulled at something in her memory, distant and faded. Her mother's brother, maybe. She'd only met him once when she was very young, at a family gathering her mother had dragged her to, despite her father's protests about associating with that side of the family. The letter continued. The property consists of a radio telescope array facility built in 1987, sitting on 156 acres of federal land under long-term lease agreement. Dr. Vasquez left specific instructions that the property be transferred to you immediately upon his death with no conditions attached. He also left a personal note which I have enclosed. Maya's hands trembled as she unfolded the second piece of paper. The handwriting was shaky but determined, the words of someone who knew time was running out. Maya, the note read, we met only once when you were 6 years old. You probably don't remember me. I was your mother's younger brother, though our family stopped speaking long before you were born. I followed your life from a distance through social media posts your mother used to share before she passed, through the occasional photograph that found its way to me through mutual acquaintances. I know what happened with Marcus. I know about the quadruplets and how hard you've been fighting to keep them fed and safe. I know because I've been watching, and I'm sorry I never reached out while I was alive. Cowardice, I suppose, or fear of rejection from a family that made it clear I wasn't welcome. But I built something out here in the desert, Maya, something extraordinary that the world has forgotten about, and now it's yours. Not because you're family, though you are, but because you remind me of myself at your age, alone and struggling and refusing to quit even when quitting would be easier. The array is old. It hasn't operated in 15 years. The structures are falling apart, but it's paid for. The land lease is current through 2050, and it's yours or yours. Do with it what you will. Live in it, sell it, turn it into something new. Just know that someone saw you, Maya. Someone knew you were worth more than your circumstances suggested. There's one more thing. The site contains research materials and equipment I couldn't take with me when the project ended. Some of it might be valuable. Most of it is probably junk, but it's all yours now. Search carefully. I left surprises for someone willing to look, with hope for your future, Uncle Raymond. Maya finished reading as tears blurred the words. She'd met him once, barely remembered it, and yet he'd followed her life, seen her struggling, and given her something no one else had offered in months. A chance. Patricia leaned forward. What does it say? I inherited property in New Mexico. Maya's voice came out thin and uncertain. A research facility, some kind of telescope array. That's unexpected. Do you know anything about it? Nothing. I don't remember my uncle at all. Maya pulled out her phone. The screen cracked and the battery at 15%. She searched Vasquez Array, New Mexico, and found a handful of results. A Wikipedia article about decommissioned radio telescope facilities, a few photographs showing massive satellite dishes pointed at the sky, rust-covered and abandoned, a newspaper article from 2009 titled Budget Cuts Force Closure of Desert Research Station. She clicked on the article. The Vasquez Array, named for its founder Dr. Raymond Vasquez, ceased operations last month after federal funding was eliminated. The facility, which operated for 22 years, studying deep space radio signals, employed 17 researchers and contributed to multiple discoveries in astrophysics and cosmology. The site's 12 radio telescope dishes, each 45 feet in diameter, will remain in place under caretaker status while the Bureau of Land Management determines future use of the property.
If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this.
The photographs showed Dr. Vasquez standing in front of the array, much younger, maybe in his 50s, with wire-rimmed glasses and a smile that suggested he'd found something most people spent their whole lives searching for: purpose. "Mommy," Lily whispered, tugging on Maya's sleeve, "are we going to live in the spaceship place?" The question hung in the air. Patricia's expression had shifted from concerned social worker to something more complicated. "You're thinking about going there." "I don't have anywhere else to go," Maya said simply. "It's 30 miles from the nearest town in the middle of the desert. No infrastructure, no services, probably no running water or electricity. It's not suitable for children. Neither is living in my car, but here we are." Maya stood up, the quadruplets rising with her like a coordinated unit. "Thank you for your concern, Ms. Hernandez, but I think we're done here." "Maya, wait." Patricia pulled out a business card. "Take this. It's for a shelter in Las Cruces. They have family rooms, might be able to accommodate the 5 of you while you figure things out." Maya took the card, knowing she wouldn't call. Shelters meant rules, curfews, questions about why she hadn't contacted Marcus's family for help, judgment from people who thought they understood poverty, but only knew it from the safe distance of their social work degrees. "I appreciate it," Maya said, heading toward the door, "but I think Uncle Raymond left me an answer. I just need to go find it." The drive from Albuquerque to Truth or Consequences took 4 hours through desert landscape that seemed to stretch forever under an October sky so blue it hurt to look at. Maya kept the Odyssey's speedometer at exactly 65, conserving gas, watching the gauge needle hover closer to empty with every mile. The quadruplets were unusually quiet in the back, sensing perhaps that this drive was different from all the aimless wandering of the past 6 weeks. This time they were going somewhere specific, somewhere that might be home. The attorney's number was at the bottom of the letter. Maya called from a gas station in Socorro, the last place with reliable cell service. "Caldwell, Morrison and Associates," a woman's voice answered. "This is Maya Torres. I received a letter about Dr. Vasquez's estate." "Miss Torres, yes. Mr. Morrison has been hoping you'd call. Let me transfer you." A moment later, a man's voice came on the line, warm and slightly rushed. "Miss Torres, Patrick Morrison, I'm so glad to hear from you. Dr. Vasquez was very specific about his wishes regarding the property. I don't understand why he left it to me. I barely knew him." "He left me a letter, too," Morrison said. "Told me you'd ask that. He said to tell you this, because everyone deserves to be chosen at least once, and because he believed you'd have the courage to look past the obvious." Maya felt tears prick her eyes again. "What does that mean?" "I don't know, but Dr. Vasquez was unconventional. Brilliant, but unconventional. The property transfer is already complete. I filed the paperwork last month. All you need to do is go collect the keys and take possession." "Where are the keys?" "At the site. Dr. Vasquez left them with the caretaker, a man named Joel Martinez, who lives about 2 miles from the array. I'm texting you his number and address now. He's expecting you." Maya hung up and stared at her phone as the text arrived. Joel Martinez, an address that was just coordinates, really. 33.2 degrees N, 107.1 degrees W. The middle of nowhere made digital. She bought gas with the last $20 in her checking account, used the restroom with all 4 children crammed into one stall because she couldn't risk leaving them alone even for a minute, and got back on the road. The exit for County Road 51 appeared just as the sun started its descent toward the horizon. Maya turned onto a dirt road that looked like it hadn't been graded in years, the Odyssey bouncing over ruts and washboard sections that made the children giggle nervously. They drove for 20 minutes through scrubland dotted with creosote bushes and mesquite, past a hand-painted sign that read, "Private Property, Vasquez Array, Authorized Personnel Only," and then over a rise that revealed the valley beyond. The telescope array appeared suddenly, dramatically, like something from a science fiction film. 12 massive satellite dishes arranged in a precise pattern across the desert floor, each one 45 feet across, their metal surfaces rust-stained and pitted by years of neglect. They pointed at various angles toward the sky, frozen in whatever position they'd held when the facility shut down 15 years ago. Some dishes had partially collapsed, their support structures bent or broken. Others remained eerily intact, enormous ears listening to nothing. In the center of the array stood a 2-story control building, all concrete and glass, its windows dark and empty. Smaller structures surrounded it, equipment sheds, a generator building, something that might have been living quarters. Everything was connected by cracked asphalt paths, now being reclaimed by desert vegetation. "Wow," Emma breathed from the back seat. "It's like a robot graveyard." That's exactly what it looked like, Maya thought. The bones of something that had once been alive with purpose and discovery, now left to decay under the relentless New Mexico sun. She followed the road down into the valley, past warning signs about electromagnetic radiation and authorized personnel, past a guardhouse that was nothing but a weathered wooden shell, and parked in front of the main control building. The silence when she shut off the engine was absolute. No cars, no planes, no human sound at all. Just wind and the distant cry of a hawk and the ticking of the Odyssey's cooling engine. "Are we really going to live here?" Noah asked, his voice small and uncertain. "I don't know yet, baby. Let's look around first." They got out of the car, the quadruplets staying close to Maya as they approached the control building. The front door was chained shut, a heavy padlock keeping it secure. Windows on the ground floor had been boarded over from the inside. But as Maya circled the building, she found a side entrance with a door that stood slightly ajar, its lock broken long ago by vandals or weather or time. Maya pushed it open carefully. The interior was dark and smelled like dust and abandonment and something organic that had died in the walls. Her phone's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing a hallway lined with doors. Some opened onto offices filled with overturned furniture and scattered papers. Others led to laboratories with equipment still bolted to benches, computers from the 1990s sitting dead and useless, whiteboards covered in equations that might as well have been ancient hieroglyphics. They found stairs leading up and climbed carefully, Maya testing each step before letting the children follow. The second floor held more offices, a break room with a refrigerator that had been left open and long ago emptied, and at the far end of the hallway, a massive control room. Windows ran the length of one wall, offering a panoramic view of the telescope array spread across the valley. Banks of computers lined the other walls, their monitors dark, their keyboards thick with dust. In the center of the room sat something that looked like a command station from a 1980s NASA mission. Switches, dials, LED displays that would never light up again, and a massive screen that dominated the far wall. "This is where they watch the stars," Maya whispered, more to herself than to the children. Lily ran to one of the control stations and pretended to flip switches. "Houston, we have a problem," she announced in her best space voice. The others giggled and joined her, playing astronaut in a facility that had once listened to the universe's deepest secrets. Maya watched them and felt something shift in her chest. They were laughing. For the first time in weeks, her children were laughing, instead of asking when they could go home, when they could sleep in beds instead of the car, when things would be normal again. Maybe this place, broken and abandoned as it was, could be something. Maybe Uncle Raymond had known exactly what he was doing. A sound from outside made Maya turn toward the windows. A truck was approaching, kicking up dust as it navigated the access road. Not a fancy vehicle, just a working truck with a dented bed and faded paint. It parked next to the Odyssey, and a man got out, maybe 60, weathered face, wearing jeans and a work shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Maya hurried downstairs, making sure the children stayed in the control room. She met the man at the side entrance. "You must be Maya Torres," he said, extending a calloused hand. "Joel Martinez. I've been keeping an eye on this place for Dr. Vasquez." "Thank you for coming." Maya shook his hand. "The lawyer said you have keys." Joel pulled a ring of keys from his pocket, at least a dozen of them. "Keys to everything. Main building, equipment sheds, living quarters, even the dishes, though I don't know why anyone would need to lock up a satellite dish." He studied Maya for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Dr. Vasquez called me about 2 months before he died. Said his niece would be coming to take over the property. Said she'd probably arrive desperate and that I should help her however I could." Maya felt her throat tighten. "Did he say anything else?" "Said you had 4 kids and that you deserved better than what life had dealt you. Said this place might not look like much, but it had everything you needed if you were willing to dig." Joel gestured toward the array. He wasn't wrong about it not looking like much. This facility's been shut down 15 years. Most of the equipment is obsolete or broken. The dishes are falling apart, but... He paused, seeming to weigh his words carefully. But Dr. Vasquez was working on something in his last years. Something he kept private, even from the other researchers. He'd come out here at night sometimes, spend hours in one of the equipment sheds. When I asked what he was doing, he'd just smile and say he was tidying up loose ends. Joel met her eyes. "I think whatever he was doing, it's still here, and I think he wanted you to find it." Maya looked back at the control building where she could see the Quadruplets' silhouettes in the second-floor windows, still playing astronaut. "The letter mentioned research materials and equipment. Do you know where they might be?" "Dr. Vasquez had a personal workshop in Dish 7. That's the one on the far west end, the one that's partially collapsed. He kept it locked, wouldn't let anyone in there, not even the facility director. After the shutdown, he'd still come out here once a month to work in there." Joel handed over the keys. "One of these opens that dish's access hatch. I'd start there if I were you." "Is there power to the buildings? Running water?" "There's a generator and a well, both still functional. Solar panels on the living quarters building still work too, though they're old and don't generate much. It's enough to run lights and keep a refrigerator going, maybe a space heater if you're careful. The well water's good. I've been testing it monthly. Property's on a septic system that still functions." Joel pulled out a business card. "This has my number. I live 2 miles east. If you need anything, food, supplies, advice on how to work the generator, you call me. Dr. Vasquez prepaid me through 2025 to act as caretaker and help his niece get settled." He emphasized the last part meaningfully. "Why?" Maya asked. "Why would he do all this for me when he barely knew me?" "Because that's who he was. Dr. Vasquez spent his whole life studying signals from distant stars, looking for patterns in noise, trying to find meaning in chaos. I think he saw you struggling and decided you were a signal worth amplifying." Joel turned to go, then stopped. "One more thing. There's a storm coming in tomorrow night. Desert storms are serious out here. Make sure you're inside the control building or the living quarters. The dishes aren't safe in high winds. Things fall off them. And whatever you do, don't go into Dish 7 during the storm. The structure's compromised. Could collapse completely." Maya watched him drive away, dust trailing behind his truck like a comet's tail. Then she gathered the children and they explored the rest of the property before sunset. The living quarters building turned out to be the most promising structure. It had been designed to house researchers during long observation runs. 4 small bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen with appliances from the 1980s that somehow still worked, and a common room with furniture covered in dust, but structurally sound. Joel had been right about the solar panels. Maya found a control panel and managed to get power flowing to the building. Lights flickered on, weak but functional. The refrigerator hummed to life. A space heater in the corner began radiating warmth. "We can stay here tonight," Maya said, more to convince herself than the children. "It's warm and safe. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest." They brought in their belongings from the Odyssey. 2 duffel bags with clothes, a box of toys, sleeping bags they'd been using in the car, and a cooler with what remained of their food supply. Not much, but everything they owned. That night, Maya heated canned soup on the kitchen stove, while the quadruplets explored their new temporary home. They chose bedrooms, Lily and Emma in one, Noah and Jack in another, and made a game of sweeping dust off furniture and making beds with the sleeping bags. As darkness fell completely, Maya stood at the window looking out at the telescope array. The dishes were barely visible now, massive shadows against a sky so full of stars it looked like someone had spilled diamonds across black velvet. She'd never seen so many stars. In the city, light pollution washed everything out. But here, 30 miles from the nearest town, the universe revealed itself in full glory. The Milky Way stretched overhead like a river of light. Constellations she remembered from childhood, Orion, the Big Dipper, Cassiopeia, blazed with startling clarity. Uncle Raymond had spent 22 years out here listening to these stars, searching for their secrets. What had he found? And what had he left for her? "Mommy?" Noah appeared at her elbow. "Are we going to be okay?" Maya pulled him close, feeling the warmth of his small body against her side. "Yeah, baby, I think we are. I like it here. It's quiet, but not scary quiet, like the stars are watching us." Out of the mouths of babes, Maya thought. That's exactly what it felt like, protected by something vast and ancient and beyond human understanding. They slept that night in real beds for the first time in 6 weeks. The quadruplets piled together in one room despite having 2 available, needing the comfort of proximity. Maya lay awake listening to the buildings settle and creak, to the wind moving through the desert, to the absolute silence between sounds. She thought about the past 6 weeks of parking lots and gas station bathrooms, and the constant, low-grade terror of not knowing where they'd sleep or how they'd eat. She thought about Marcus and the anger she'd carried for so long, the bitterness of abandonment. But mostly she thought about Uncle Raymond, this man she barely remembered who'd seen her struggling and decided to help in the only way he could. Morning came with a sunlight so bright and clean, it seemed to wash away the previous night's fears. Maya woke to find all 4 children crowded into her bed, still asleep, their faces peaceful in a way she hadn't seen in months. She extracted herself carefully and went to the kitchen to assess their situation. The refrigerator worked, but was empty. The pantry held nothing but dust and mouse droppings. They had maybe 2 days of food left in the cooler, and her bank account showed $3.47. No job, no prospects, no safety net, except 156 acres of abandoned research facility and whatever Uncle Raymond had left hidden in Dish 7. Joel arrived mid-morning with his truck bed full of supplies, groceries, basics like bread, eggs, milk, canned goods, cleaning supplies, firewood for the wood stove Maya had noticed in the living quarters building, and a propane tank for the kitchen stove. "Consider it a housewarming present," he said, when Maya tried to refuse. "Dr. Vasquez's estate covered this. He wanted to make sure you'd have what you needed for at least a few weeks." Tears burned in Maya's eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." "Thank me by not giving up. Dr. Vasquez believed you'd find something worth staying for. I'm inclined to trust his judgment." After Joel left, Maya got the children fed and organized them for exploration. They spent the morning walking the property, getting familiar with the layout. The array was massive, the 12 dishes arranged in a specific geometric pattern across nearly half a mile of desert valley. Each dish sat on a concrete foundation with a metal support structure that had once allowed them to rotate and tilt, tracking signals across the sky. Most were frozen in place now, their mechanical systems seized from disuse. Maya approached Dish 7 last. It stood at the western edge of the array, noticeably different from the others. The dish itself had partially collapsed, its massive metal surface bent and warped, held up by support beams that looked like they might give way completely any moment. But beneath the dish, built into the concrete foundation, was a metal door marked Equipment Access, Authorized Personnel Only. She pulled out Joel's keyring and found the one marked D7. It fit perfectly, turning with a click that suggested someone had maintained the lock, even as everything else decayed. The door opened onto darkness and a stairway leading down into the foundation. Maya turned on her phone's flashlight. "Stay here," she told the children. "Mommy needs to look at something first." "But we want to explore too," Lily protested. "I know, baby, but this might not be safe. Give me 5 minutes." Maya descended the stairs carefully, her light revealing concrete walls covered in years of desert dust. At the bottom was a corridor leading to a room beneath the dish's center. The door to this room was also locked, requiring another key. Inside, Maya found Dr. Raymond Vasquez's final workshop. The space was surprisingly organized for a place that had been abandoned for over a decade. Workbenches lined the walls, covered with equipment Maya didn't recognize. Computers, modern ones, not the obsolete machines from the control building. Hard drives stacked and labeled by date. Filing cabinets secured with combination locks. And in the center of the room, something that made Maya's breath catch. A safe. Not a small, personal safe, but a massive vault door built into the wall, commercial grade, the kind banks used. It was painted industrial gray with brass fittings and a combination dial that looked untouched by time. Maya approached it slowly, her heart hammering. This was it. This was what Uncle Raymond had left for her to find. But she didn't know the combination. She tried the handle anyway, not expecting anything. It didn't budge. Locked tight, sealed, protecting whatever secrets Raymond had considered worth preserving. Maya searched the workshop, looking for clues. The filing cabinets were locked, and she didn't see keys that fit them. The computers were password protected. The hard drives were labeled with technical notation she didn't understand. SETI Analysis 2007-2009, Signal Processing Archive, Deep Field Survey Results. On one of the workbenches, she found a notebook, its leather cover worn smooth by years of handling. She opened it carefully. The pages were filled with Raymond's handwriting, equations and observations, and sketches of the telescope array. She flipped through, looking for anything that might help. Near the back, she found it. A page dated July 15th, 2024, just 2 months before Raymond died. If Maya is reading this, she's made it to the workshop. Good. That means she didn't give up, didn't sell the property without investigating, didn't let fear stop her from digging deeper. The combination to the vault is hidden in plain sight, visible from where the universe watches. Stand at the center of what I built and look up. The stars will tell you the way. Maya read it 3 times, trying to parse the meaning. Hidden in plain sight, visible from where the universe watches. Stand at the center of what I built. She thought about the control room with its panoramic windows overlooking the array. That was the center, wasn't it? The place from which Raymond had monitored and directed all 12 dishes. Looking up meant what? The ceiling? The sky? She climbed back up the stairs, locked the door behind her, and found the children playing a game with rocks and sticks, creating elaborate structures that represented, according to Noah, a castle for science wizards. "I need to check something in the control building," Maya told them. "Who wants to come?" They all did, of course. They made the short walk to the main building and climbed to the second-floor control room. Maya stood in the center of the space, exactly where Raymond must have stood countless times, and looked up. The ceiling was acoustic tile, yellowed with age, marked with water stains. Nothing obviously meaningful. She tried looking at the massive screen on the far wall, dark and dead, showing nothing. Then she noticed the windows. The control room's windows offered a perfect view of all 12 telescope dishes, arranged in their geometric pattern across the valley floor. From this vantage point, she could see how they were positioned, not random, but deliberate, forming a shape. A constellation. She pulled out her phone and took a photograph, then studied the pattern. The dishes formed something, a connect-the-dots puzzle on a massive scale. "Mommy, what are you looking at?" Emma had climbed onto one of the control station chairs, making herself tall enough to see out the windows. "The way the dishes are arranged. See how they make a pattern?" Maya pointed. "That one, then that one, then those three, in a row." "It looks like a person," Jack announced. "Like a stick figure." He was right. From this angle, with this perspective, the 12 dishes formed a crude representation of a human figure. Arms, legs, body, head, or not a human figure, Maya realized, as recognition dawned. And constellation. "Orion," she whispered. He arranged them to match Orion. The Hunter constellation, one of the most recognizable star patterns in the night sky. Belt, shoulders, legs, club raised overhead. The dishes mapped it perfectly. Maya felt her pulse quicken. "Stand at the center of what I built and look up. The stars will tell you the way." She pulled up her phone's web browser and searched for Orion constellation star names. The results showed the major stars: Betelgeuse, Rigel, Bellatrix, Mintaka, Alnilam, Alnitak. Each one had a designation number in various astronomical catalogs. She went back to Raymond's notebook and flipped through the pages more carefully. There, in the margins of several pages, he'd written coordinates. Not geographic coordinates, but astronomical ones. Right ascension and declination, the celestial equivalent of latitude and longitude. And next to certain coordinates, he'd drawn small stars. Maya photographed the pages and spent the next hour cross-referencing. Her phone's battery was dying, down to 7%, but she worked quickly matching Raymond's marked coordinates to known stars in Orion. She found 4 stars specifically marked: Mintaka, Delta Orionis, Alnilam, Epsilon Orionis, Alnitak, Zeta Orionis, the 3 stars of Orion's belt, and Rigel, Beta Orionis, the bright blue star marking the Hunter's foot. Astronomical catalog numbers for these stars in the Bayer designation system: Delta Orionis equals 34, Epsilon Orionis equals 46, Zeta Orionis equal 50, Beta Orionis equal 19. Maya stared at the numbers. 34, 46, 50, 19. Was that the combination? She needed to try it, but her phone was dying, and the children were getting restless and hungry. They walked back to the living quarters for lunch. Maya heated canned ravioli while her mind raced through possibilities. After the children ate, she got them settled with their toys in the common room and told them she needed to check one more thing in dish 7. "Can we come?" Lily asked. "Not yet, baby. I need to make sure it's safe first. I'll be 15 minutes. Maya practically ran to dish 7, descended the stairs, and stood in front of the vault. Her hands shook as she turned the combination dial, right to 34. Click, left to 46. Click, right to 50. Click, left to 19. Final click. She pulled the handle and the massive door swung open smoothly, its hinges well oiled despite years of neglect. Inside was darkness. Maya fumbled for her phone, realized it was dead, and cursed. She ran back up to the living quarters, grabbed a flashlight from the supplies Joel had brought, and returned to the vault. This time, when she swung the door open and shined the light inside, she saw what Uncle Raymond had left for her. The vault was deep, extending back into the concrete foundation at least 15 feet. Metal shelves lined both sides, and what filled those shelves made Maya's knees go weak. Bearer bonds, stacks and stacks of them, bound with rubber bands, each bond printed with denominations that made her head spin. 100,000, 250,000, 500,000. She picked up one stack at random and counted. 20 bonds, each for 500,000, $10 million in her hands, and there were dozens of stacks. Against the back wall stood file boxes, each labeled with dates and categories. Gold bullion certificates, rare earth element mining rights, patent royalties 1987 to 2024, stock certificates, pre-digital, and mounted on the wall in climate-controlled display cases items that even Maya's untrained eye recognized as valuable. A meteorite, maybe 2 feet across, mounted on a stand with a plaque reading, Gibeon IVA Iron Meteorite, 4.5 billion years old, Namibia. Framed documents that looked like original papers, the kind that belonged in museums. She read one title, On the Detection of Non-Random Radio Signals from Deep Space Objects by Raymond Vasquez, published in Nature 1993. In glass cases along the left wall, objects that seemed almost religious in their presentation. Small vials containing what the labels claimed were samples from lunar missions, Mars rovers, cosmic dust collection. A chunk of rock labeled Type 3 carbonaceous chondrite, Allende meteorite, 1969. Next to it, something that made Maya's breath stop. A display case containing 3 small crystals, each no bigger than a grape, sitting on velvet cushions. The placard read, Moldavite specimens, formed 15 million years ago by meteorite impact, Czech Republic. Estimated value, $2.3 million. And in the center of the vault, on a pedestal like an altar, sat a leather portfolio. Maya opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten inventory list in Raymond's careful script. Total assets as of July 2024. Bearer bonds, 142 million. Gold bullion certificates stored at Denver Depository. 87 million rare earth mining rights, New Mexico and Wyoming holdings. 43 million patent royalties, Vasquez signal processing method, licensed to 14 satellite communications companies. $38 million ongoing scientific specimen collection, 23 million vintage computing equipment and archival materials. 12 million total estimated liquid value, 345 million. Additional note, the array facility and land lease are worth approximately $2.3 million if sold for salvage and development rights, but are worth infinitely more as a home and a reminder that the universe is vast and we are small, and sometimes being small is exactly what we need to be. All of it is yours, Maya. All of it earned through patience, through careful investment, through spending 30 years listening to stars and learning that the best discoveries come from paying attention to signals everyone else dismisses as noise. I started with nothing but a doctorate and a dream of finding proof that we're not alone in the universe. Never found that proof, but I found something else. I found that building a life on your own terms, refusing to quit even when the funding runs out and the world moves on to newer projects, is its own form of success. You're at the beginning of something, Maya. You've got 4 reasons to keep fighting, and now you've got resources to do it right. Don't let anyone take this from you. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for accepting help you deserve. And most importantly, don't stop looking up. The stars have more secrets to share if you're willing to listen. With all my hope for your future, Uncle Raymond. Maya sank to the floor of the vault, the inventory list clutched in her hands. 345 million, more money than she could process. More money than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. More money than her children's children's children would ever need. She sat there in the dim flashlight glow, surrounded by a fortune built by a man who'd spent his life looking for signals from distant stars, and cried. Not from relief, though she felt that. Not from gratitude, though she felt that too. She cried because for the first time in 3.5 years, since the moment Marcus walked out, since the morning she couldn't pay rent, since the evening she'd loaded her children into the car with everything they owned, she felt safe. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made her jump. Small footsteps. "Mommy!" Lily's voice echoed in the underground corridor. "You've been gone a long time, we got worried." Maya quickly wiped her eyes and stood up. The 4 children appeared in the doorway, backlit by the corridor's faint light, holding hands in a chain. They stopped when they saw the open vault, their eyes going wide. "Whoa," Noah breathed. "What is all this stuff?" Maya looked at her children, at their wondering faces. at the innocence that had somehow survived 6 weeks of homelessness and years of hardship. "This," she said, her voice stronger than she felt, "is our future." "Is it treasure?" Emma asked. "Like pirates?" "Something like that. Your great-uncle Raymond left it for us, to help us start over." Jack stepped closer, peering at the bearer bonds, without understanding what they were. "Are we rich now?" Maya knelt down so she was eye level with them. "We're going to be okay, better than okay. We're going to be safe and fed and warm, and you're going to go to good schools and have toys and clothes that fit and everything you deserve." "Can we stay here?" Lily asked. "In the spaceship place with all the robot dishes? Do you want to?" 4 heads nodded in unison. "Then yes," Maya said. "We can stay. This is home now." The storm Joel had warned about rolled in the next evening, arriving with a wall of dark clouds that turned day to night in minutes. Maya got the children inside the living quarters building as the first drops of rain hit, fat and heavy. Within minutes it became a deluge, wind-driven water that sounded like gravel thrown against the metal roof. They huddled in the common room as lightning split the sky and thunder shook the windows. The children were scared at first, but Maya made a game of it, counting the seconds between lightning and thunder, explaining how you could tell how far away the storm was. "We're safe here," she assured them. "This building was designed to withstand desert storms. Uncle Raymond made sure it was solid." Through the window she could see the telescope dishes being battered by wind and rain. One of the partially collapsed dishes swayed dangerously. As she watched, a section of metal paneling tore free and went tumbling across the desert, end over end, until it crashed into the side of an equipment shed. The power went out around midnight, plunging them into darkness. Maya found candles and flashlights, got the children settled into their sleeping bags, and sat vigil while the storm raged. She thought about the fortune in the vault beneath Dish 7, wondered if it was safe from flooding or if Raymond had designed that space to be waterproof. She thought about what came next, how to access the bearer bonds, how to liquidate assets without drawing the kind of attention that would bring lawyers and tax authorities and people who'd question whether someone like her deserved this windfall. Most of all, she thought about Marcus. For 3.5 years, she'd carried rage and resentment like stones in her pockets, weighing her down with every step. Where had he been while she was working 3 jobs, while she was being evicted, while she was living in her car with their 4 children? And now that she had resources, now that she could hire lawyers and investigators, should she try to find him, make him pay child support, force him to acknowledge the children he'd abandoned? The storm answered with a crack of thunder so loud it rattled the dishes on the kitchen shelves. The children stirred in their sleeping bags but didn't wake. Maya looked at them and felt something shift inside her, a weight releasing. Marcus didn't matter anymore. He'd given up his right to matter when he walked away. Hunting him down, making him pay, forcing acknowledgement from someone who demonstrated such profound selfishness. That was just another form of carrying stones. She was done carrying stones. Dawn came with an eerie calm, the storm having passed in the night. Maya woke to find all 4 children crowded into her bed again, seeking warmth and comfort. She extracted herself and went to assess the damage. Outside, the desert looked scrubbed clean, colors more vivid than before. But the telescope array had suffered. Dish 7 had collapsed completely, the structure that had been compromised finally giving way. It lay in a twisted heap of metal and concrete, barely recognizable as what it had been. Maya's heart jumped into her throat. The vault. Was it damaged? Could the collapse have compromised it? She ran across the still wet desert, slipping once in the mud, and found the access door. It opened normally. She descended the stairs with her flashlight and found nothing wrong. The corridor was dry, the workshop door was intact, and when she opened the vault, everything remained exactly as she'd left it. The bearer bonds, the display cases, Raymond's inventory list, all of it safe, protected by concrete walls and Raymond's foresight. He'd built the vault to survive, even if the dish above it failed. Of course he had. He'd planned for everything. Joel arrived mid-morning to check on them. He surveyed the collapsed dish and shook his head. That one's been compromised for years. Storm was just the final straw. You're lucky it didn't fall on the access entrance. Everything important is safe, Maya said, and Joel's expression suggested he understood. She meant more than just the workshop. Over the next week, Maya began the process of transforming their situation. She contacted Patrick Morrison, the attorney, and explained that she'd found significant assets in the facility that needed to be properly inventoried and managed. Morrison recommended an asset management firm in Santa Fe that specialized in unusual estates. Within 3 days, Maya was sitting in a conference room with financial advisors who listened to her story without judgment and began creating a plan. The bearer bonds could be cashed over time to avoid raising red flags with the IRS. The gold certificates could be liquidated through the Denver depository. The mining rights were already generating passive income, $200,000 per quarter from rare earth element extraction companies leasing Raymond's land. The patent royalties would continue paying out for another 15 years, and the scientific collection, while valuable, could be sold piece by piece to universities and museums or kept as a reminder of Raymond's work. Miss Torres, the lead advisor said, a woman named Catherine Ross with steel gray hair and sharp eyes. You're looking at approximately $345 million in assets once everything is liquidated and properly invested. That's generational wealth. It requires serious planning and protection. What kind of protection? Legal protection from people who might try to claim they have rights to your uncle's estate. Financial protection from bad investments or fraud, and personal protection from people who will suddenly find you very interesting once word gets out. Maya thought about Marcus, about his family who'd never met the Quadruplets, about distant relatives who might emerge from nowhere, claiming Raymond had promised them something. What do you recommend? First, we establish a trust with you as the primary beneficiary and your children as secondary beneficiaries. This protects assets from lawsuits or claims. Second, we create an investment portfolio designed for long-term stability rather than high-risk returns. You're 31 years old with 4 children. You don't need to gamble. You need security. Third, we set up a modest annual draw that covers your living expenses without drawing attention. Maybe $200,000 per year. Let the rest grow. I want to do more than just live comfortably, Maya said. I want to help people like me. Catherine Ross smiled. Then we also establish a charitable foundation, Raymond's Legacy, supporting single parents in crisis. Tax-advantaged, impactful, and a way to honor what he did for you. Over the next month, while paperwork was filed and assets were transferred and legal protections were established, Maya made the telescope array property into a real home. Joel helped her repair the generator and upgrade the solar panels. She hired contractors from Truth or Consequences to renovate the living quarters building. New windows, proper insulation, modern appliances, fresh paint throughout. She enrolled the Quadruplets in the small elementary school in town, 20 minutes away but manageable. They thrived there, making friends, telling elaborate stories about living in a space station in the desert. Their teacher called Maya one afternoon, concerned that the children were telling fantasy stories about their home. Maya invited her to visit. The teacher arrived on a Saturday and stood in the center of the telescope array, turning in slow circles, taking in the massive dishes and the control building and the sheer improbability of it all. It really is like a space station, she said finally. Your children aren't making anything up. They've had a hard few months, Maya explained. This place has been good for them, for all of us. The teacher, a woman named Sarah Chen, looked at Maya with something like understanding. I was homeless for 8 months when I was in college. Slept in my car, used the gym showers, told everyone I was fine. I know what that shame feels like. "It's not the being homeless that hurt the most," Maya said quietly. "It was the invisibility. How people would look right through you like you didn't exist." "You're not invisible anymore," Sarah said. Word spread through Truth or Consequences and the surrounding communities. The woman who'd inherited the old telescope array, the single mother with quadruplets living in a decommissioned research facility. People were curious but not intrusive. This was New Mexico, where eccentricity was accepted and personal space was sacred. Maya began volunteering at the county food bank, knowing intimately what it meant to need that kind of help. She made anonymous donations to the elementary school's lunch program, so no child would have unpaid fees. And she started planning her foundation with Catherine Ross and a team of advisors. The Raymond Vasquez Foundation launched in January, 6 months after Maya discovered the vault. Its mission was simple: provide emergency financial assistance to single parents facing homelessness. Grants for rent deposits, car repairs, childcare, medical bills, all the small catastrophes that could spiral into disasters without help. The foundation operated mostly quietly, working through social service agencies and shelters to identify families in crisis. But Maya also created a direct application process. Single parents could request help, share their story, explain what they needed. Maya read every application herself, remembering what it felt like to fill out forms while children waited in the car, to explain your circumstances to strangers who might judge you, to beg for help you shouldn't have to beg for. In its first year, the foundation helped 324 families, prevented 47 evictions, paid for car repairs that allowed 29 people to keep their jobs, covered medical bills that would have destroyed credit and future opportunities, and placed 12 families in the transitional housing Maya built by converting the old control building into apartments. She kept the control room intact, the panoramic windows, the vintage computer stations, the view of the telescope array, and opened it as a community space. Local schools brought students on field trips. Amateur astronomers used it for star parties. And every wall held photographs of Raymond and his team during the facility's operational years, a reminder of what one person's vision could accomplish. The confrontation Maya had been expecting came in February. She was working in the foundation's office, a renovated equipment shed near the living quarters, when a car pulled up. Not Joel's familiar truck, but a luxury sedan with California plates. 2 people emerged, a man and a woman, both in their 50s, both wearing expensive clothes and expressions of entitlement. Maya met them at the door. "Can I help you?" "We're looking for Maya Torres," the woman said. "You found her, Ma?" The man stepped forward. "We're Raymond Vasquez's cousins. We heard you inherited his property, and we need to discuss the estate distribution." Maya felt her stomach tighten but kept her voice level. "The estate was distributed, according to Raymond's will, to me." "That's what we need to discuss," the woman said. "Raymond was clearly not in his right mind when he made that will. We have documentation showing he was suffering from dementia." "Documentation from when?" "The last 5 years of his life. He wasn't competent to make legal decisions, which means the will should be invalidated and the estate should go to his next of kin, which would be you." "Among others, yes." Maya studied them, these strangers who'd suddenly appeared claiming Raymond was incompetent, claiming they deserved his fortune. "Did you visit Raymond in the last 5 years of his life?" The cousins exchanged glances. He was difficult to reach. He'd isolated himself out here. "Did you call him, send letters, attend his funeral?" "We weren't informed about the funeral until after it happened," the man said defensively. "The attorney didn't contact us in time." "The attorney contacted everyone Raymond wanted present. Apparently that didn't include you." Maya crossed her arms. "Raymond left specific instructions that this property and all assets go to me. He was evaluated by 3 separate doctors in his final year. All concluded he was of sound mind. He witnessed the will properly, And he left me a letter explaining exactly why he chose me and not people like you." The woman's expression hardened. "We're filing a challenge with the court. We have lawyers already reviewing the case." "File whatever you want. I have lawyers, too. Raymond provided for that." Maya felt her anger rising, but kept it controlled. "He knew people like you would come crawling out looking for money you never earned. He planned for it." "You're nobody," the man said, his voice dripping contempt. "You're some homeless single mother who lucked into a fortune. What did you do to deserve it? What makes you special?" "I survived," Maya said simply. "I kept my children safe when their father abandoned them. I worked myself to exhaustion and never stopped fighting. That's what made me special to Raymond. He saw someone who wouldn't quit, and he decided to help." The cousins left, threatening legal action, promising they'd tie up the estate in courts for years. Maya watched them drive away and felt nothing but pity. They'd spent decades ignoring Raymond, treating him like an embarrassment, the weird scientist who lived in the desert, listening to stars. Now they wanted his money. But Patrick Morrison called that afternoon. "I heard you had visitors. Don't worry." Raymond anticipated this. He left specific documentation about his relationship with his extended family, or lack thereof. He left medical records proving his competence, and he left letters explaining why he chose you. Any challenge they file will be dismissed. "They seemed very confident," Maya said. "Confidence isn't evidence. Raymond built a legal fortress around his will. They might try fighting, but they'll lose, and they'll pay their own legal fees doing it." Over the next 6 months, Raymond's cousins filed 3 separate challenges. Each was dismissed. They hired investigators to dig into Maya's background, looking for evidence she'd manipulated Raymond. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. They tried claiming Raymond had promised them assets verbally. The court required proof they'd ever even spoken to him in his final years. They had none. Eventually, their lawyers advised them to drop the case. They were burning money trying to break an unbreakable will. In October, a year and a month after Maya first arrived at the telescope array, she received a certified letter from the cousin's attorney, a settlement offer. They'd withdraw all challenges in exchange for $5 million. Maya called Patrick Morrison. "What do you think?" "I think they've realized they can't win and they're trying to salvage something, but it's your decision. If I pay them, it sets a precedent. It says people can harass me and I'll pay them to go away. It also makes the problem disappear permanently. Sometimes peace is worth buying." Maya thought about Marcus, about the anger she'd finally released, about carrying stones. No settlement. Let them withdraw their challenge with nothing, or keep fighting and keep losing. I'm done letting people make me feel guilty for existing. The challenges were withdrawn 3 days later. The cousins disappeared back to California. Maya never heard from them again. The quadruplets turned 5 in November. Maya threw them a party in the control room, inviting their school friends and half the town of Truth or Consequences. The room filled with children playing astronaut, eating cake, screaming with joy. Joel brought a telescope he'd built himself and showed the kids Jupiter's moons through the eyepiece. Sarah Chen helped organize games. Catherine Ross attended with her teenage daughter, both of them looking around the facility with wonder. As the party wound down and parents collected their children, Maya stood at the control room windows watching the sunset paint the telescope dishes gold and orange. Lily appeared beside her, pressing her small face against the glass. "Mommy, are we going to stay here forever?" "Do you want to?" "Yeah, I like it here. It's special." "What makes it special?" Lily thought about this seriously. "The dishes listen to space and space talks back. Uncle Raymond heard it even though he never met us, and he left us this place so we could hear it too." Out of the mouths of babes, Maya thought again. That's exactly what had happened. Raymond had listened to the universe and heard a signal worth amplifying. He'd found Maya struggling in the noise of daily survival and decided she deserved better. "Yeah, baby," Maya said, pulling Lily close. "We're staying." "Good. Because Jack says we should turn the broken dish into a skateboard park, and I think that's a really good idea." Maya laughed, imagining Dish 7, the collapsed structure that had hidden the vault containing their future, transformed into something new. Something for children who'd never know what it felt like to sleep in a car or wonder where their next meal would come from. "That's a really good idea," she agreed. "Let's do it." Over the next year, Maya established a rhythm to life at the array. The quadruplets thrived, growing confident and curious, their trauma from the homeless months fading as they built new memories of security and love. The foundation expanded, helping nearly 1,000 families in its second year, and Maya herself transformed. The exhausted, defeated woman who'd sat in the social worker's office was gone. In her place stood someone confident, purposeful, alive. She still rose early, but not from anxiety. She rose to watch the sunrise over the telescope dishes, to feel the desert air on her face, to stand in the control room and imagine Raymond doing the same thing for 30 years. She hired a team to maintain the array, to keep the still-functioning dishes operational for amateur astronomers and school groups. She opened a small museum in the equipment building, showcasing Raymond's work and the golden age of radio astronomy, and she kept the vault beneath Dish 7, exactly as Raymond had left it, visiting sometimes just to sit in that space and feel grateful. Marcus appeared in March, 2 years after Maya inherited the property. She was working in the garden she'd planted near the living quarters when a car pulled up. Unfamiliar vehicle, but the man who got out was instantly recognizable. Older, heavier, but unmistakably the man who'd fathered her children and then vanished. Maya felt her body tense, old anger rising automatically. Then she breathed deeply and felt it settle. He wasn't worth the energy. "Maya," he said, approaching cautiously, "it's been a long time. 3.5 years, 4 months, 17 days. She kept her voice neutral. "Why are you here? I heard you'd inherited some property. I wanted to see how you were doing." "You wanted to see if there was money." Marcus had the grace to look ashamed. "I also wanted to see the kids." "They don't remember you. You're a stranger who shares their DNA." "I know I messed up. I was young, scared, overwhelmed, but I've changed. I've been in therapy, working on myself. I want to be part of their lives." Maya set down her gardening tools and stood up, facing him directly. "You left when they were 6 months old. You changed your number. You disappeared completely. Now you want back in because you heard I have resources." "It's not about the money, isn't it? Because if it was about the kids, you would have called on their birthdays. You would have sent cards at Christmas. You would have paid child support, or at least tried to find out if they were okay. But you did nothing for 3.5 years. Now you're here." Marcus's expression shifted, losing the false sincerity. "I have rights. I'm their father. You're a sperm donor who contributed genetic material. Raymond Vasquez was more of a father to them, and he never even met them. He left them security and hope and a future. What did you leave them? Abandonment trauma? I want visitation. Then hire a lawyer and petition for it. But know that I'll fight you on every front. The kids are happy, stable, doing great in school. A judge will see that bringing you back into their lives serves no purpose except your ego." Marcus took a step closer, his voice dropping to something threatening. "You can't keep them from me. I know you have money now. I know people who'd love to hear about that. Tax authorities, investigators, journalists could make things very complicated for you." Maya felt a cold calm settle over her. "Are you threatening me? I'm just saying we should work this out between us. Avoid courts and publicity. Maybe if you helped me out financially, set me up with a monthly payment, I could sign away my parental rights. Clean break for everyone." There it was, not about the children at all, about money, about seeing an opportunity and trying to exploit it. Maya pulled out her phone. "I'm recording this conversation. You just attempted to extort money from me in exchange for signing away your parental rights. That's illegal. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave my property. You're going to never contact me or the children again. And if you try any of this, threats, publicity, legal action, I'll file criminal charges and use this recording as evidence." Marcus's face flushed with anger. "You can't do this." "I already did. Now leave." He left, tires kicking up gravel and dust. Maya stood in the garden, shaking, and pulled out her phone to call Patrick Morrison. "I need documentation of that conversation and a restraining order filed immediately, and I need to start the process of terminating Marcus Torres's parental rights based on abandonment." The legal process took 4 months, but Marcus didn't fight it. He'd realized Maya wasn't the desperate, vulnerable woman he'd abandoned. She had resources, legal protection, and the determination to protect her children from anyone who'd harm them, even their biological father. The day the court finalized the termination of his rights, Maya took the Quadruplets to Dish 7's ruins. The collapsed structure had been stabilized and converted into exactly what Jack suggested: a skateboard park with ramps and rails built from the salvaged telescope components. The children played while Maya sat on a bench and watched the sunset. Raymond had saved her, had seen someone struggling and decided they deserved better. Now it was her turn to do the same for others. The foundation was her way of amplifying signals the world tried to dismiss as noise, of helping people who deserved so much more than circumstances had dealt them. 3 years after inheriting the telescope array, Maya stood in the control room during the Foundation's annual gala. 200 people filled the space: donors, volunteers, families the Foundation had helped, community leaders. The Quadruplets, now 7 years old, moved through the crowd with confidence, telling stories about living at Uncle Raymond's space station and showing guests the telescope through Joel's telescope. Catherine Ross approached with champagne. 3 years, 2,847 families helped, $47 million distributed. You've built something extraordinary. Maya looked around the room, seeing people laughing and connecting, seeing hope replacing despair. Raymond built something extraordinary. I'm just the caretaker. You're being modest. He gave you resources. You turned them into systematic change. He gave me more than resources. He gave me proof that I mattered, that I was worth choosing. Maya raised her glass. To Raymond Vasquez, who listened to the universe and heard signals everyone else dismissed, who spent 30 years searching for proof we're not alone and found it in the most unexpected place, in a struggling single mother who needed someone to believe in her. They drank to that. As the gala continued, Maya slipped away to the renovated museum wing. She walked through exhibits showcasing Raymond's career, his discoveries, his 30-year quest to detect intelligent signals from space. She stopped in front of a particular display. A photograph of Raymond in his prime, standing in front of the telescope array, hand shading his eyes as he looked up at the sky. The placard read, Dr. Raymond Vasquez, 1954 to 2024. Radio astronomer, signal processing pioneer, believer in possibilities. He spent his life listening to stars and teaching us that the most important signals are the ones everyone else ignores. Maya pressed her hand against the glass, imagining reaching back through time to tell young Raymond that his life's work would matter in ways he'd never expected, that his fortune would help thousands of families, that his belief in listening carefully and paying attention to dismissed signals would become a philosophy that changed lives. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me, for choosing me, for believing I was worth the investment." A small hand slipped into hers. Lily had followed her into the museum. "Who are you talking to?" "Uncle Raymond, even though he's gone." "Mommy, I don't think he's gone. I think he's still here." Lily pointed up at the ceiling, at the skylight showing stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. "He's up there listening, and when we help people, he hears us. That's what signals are. Ways of saying you matter even across big distances." Maya pulled her daughter close, feeling tears slip down her cheeks. 7 years old, and already understanding something fundamental about connection, about love, about the ways we reach across emptiness to touch each other. You're right, baby, that's exactly what signals are. They stood together in the museum, mother and daughter, while the party continued in the control room, and stars emerged overhead, and the desert breathed cool air across the ruins of old technology transformed into new hope. 4 years after Maya first drove through a blizzard to an abandoned research facility, after she'd discovered a fortune hidden in plain sight, after she'd fought off relatives and an ex-husband and her own doubts about deserving the gift she'd been given, she finally understood what Raymond had meant in his letter. The best discoveries come from paying attention to signals everyone else dismisses as noise. He'd been dismissed as a brilliant eccentric, too obsessed with listening to stars to maintain normal family relationships. She'd been dismissed as a struggling single mother, too burdened by 4 children to be worth investing in. But Raymond had listened anyway, to both the stars and to her. He'd heard something worth amplifying, and now she did the same through the foundation, through the community she'd built, through the proof that one person's courage and resources could ripple outward and transform the world. The telescope array, rusted and broken and beautiful, stood watch over it all. 12 massive dishes arranged in the shape of Orion the Hunter, the constellation Raymond had loved enough to map across Desert Valley. Some dishes had been repaired and reopened for research. Others had been converted to playgrounds and gathering spaces. One housed solar panels generating power for the property. Another had become a rain catchment system. And Dish 7, the collapsed structure that had hidden the vault containing their future, was now a skateboard park where children laughed and fell and got up and tried again, learning that failing wasn't the end of the story, just the beginning of figuring out how to do better. Maya stood in the center of it all, surrounded by evidence that Raymond had been right about everything. You could build something beautiful from nothing. You could survive when the world said you wouldn't. You could take a fortune built on patience and careful listening and turn it into systematic hope for people who desperately needed it. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you could find someone looking down from the stars, watching your signal grow stronger and smiling because they knew exactly what they'd started when they decided one person's life was worth changing. The homeless single mother with quadruplets was gone now. In her place stood Maya Torres, director of the Raymond Vasquez Foundation, guardian of a defunct telescope array turned community center, mother to 4 brilliant children who would grow up knowing they mattered because someone had heard their mother's signal through all the noise. She wasn't perfect. She still had moments of doubt, still woke up some mornings, expecting to find it all had been a dream. But then she'd look out at the telescope dishes, at the children playing, at the families whose lives the foundation had touched, and she'd know it was real, all of it, the inheritance, the fortune, the transformation from desperate to secure. Raymond had left her more than money. He'd left her proof that listening carefully mattered, that dismissed signals often contained the most important messages, that one person believing in you could change everything. And she'd taken that lesson and built something that would outlast both of them, something that said clearly to anyone who needed to hear it, you matter. Your signal is worth amplifying. Don't give up because someone is listening and your story isn't over yet. The stars wheeled overhead, silent and eternal, while below them the telescope array stood watch over a community built on the revolutionary idea that helping struggling families wasn't charity but justice, wasn't kindness but recognition that we all deserve the chance to be heard, to be seen, to be chosen at least once. Maya Torres had been chosen, and now with resources and determination and Raymond's example guiding her, she was spending the rest of her life making sure others were chosen too. The universe was vast and mostly empty, and often terrifying in its indifference. But sometimes, if you listened carefully enough, you could hear signals of hope cutting through the noise. Sometimes you could be the answer to someone's desperate prayer, Sometimes you could look at an abandoned telescope array and see not ruins but possibilities. And sometimes, if you were very lucky and very brave, you could take 345 million hidden in a collapsed satellite dish and turn it into proof that love and determination and the refusal to quit could transform not just one life, but thousands. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.